We are starting chapter 13. In this one, we are going to start talking about vertebrates, which, is different from the invertebrates that we talked about in the last chapter. And one of the things that we need to know is that one, vertebrates have a backbone. They have skulls, they have live skeletons, which basically means that they have skeletons like us that are made up of cells that are living and active and produce products. And they are not like invertebrates, or they're not like the other animals that we talked about in the last section, which have exoskeletons like insects, or shells like clams, which both are non-living. Another thing about vertebrates is that they actually only make up 5% of all animals, but we mainly talk about vertebrates. Those are the animals that we mainly know about. But the rest of the 95% of animals are not vertebrates and are, not really highly looked upon. Okay, in this section, we're going to talk about something called an endoskeleton. So vertebrates have endoskeletons, which are pretty much just meaning they are made up of bone and cartilage. And animals that have these endoskeletons, they are mainly supported because of the way the inside of their body is structured. So the inside of their body has bone, which is a very strong support system. They have cartilage, which is a more flexible material than bone. So like the tips of your nose, your ears, your sternum, between your bones that make up your joints, those are all made out of cartilage. And it's so cool that God designed the support system in our body to support us so that we can function. Without our bones, without our cartilage, we would just be goop of skin and muscle on the floor, which is kind of gross if you think about it. So vertebrate animals have similar skeletal structure to each other. So you're going to see that, even if you look at a tiger versus, an elephant, they're all going to have similar structures, minus the tiger's not going to have a trunk, of course. But they're all going to have kind of the same similar structure. And that kind of tells you that we have the same designer. God created all animals with that kind of similarity with each other. And then all of these animals that are vertebrates, they all have a vertebral column, which is basically your spinal cord, and they have a skull. And they also have things like ribs, limbs, joints, and muscles, and all of these things that come together in order for the animal to function and for the animal to move properly. Okay, so animals are classified as either endothermic or ectothermic, or endotherms or ectotherms. And this is basically depending on whether the animal can regulate their own temperature, either internally or by external means. So let's talk about endotherms first. Endotherms are only mammals and birds. And God created them to have a pretty constant body temperature that is constantly regulated. So mammals are going to have body temperature between 36 Celsius to 39 Celsius. Birds are going to have between 40 degrees Celsius to 42 Celsius. And some endotherms can, vary between 1 degree. Others have a much wider range that they vary between. And then, depending on where they are located. So for example, polar bears have a lot more thicker fur because they live in the cold area. And they can have a lot of, heavy fur or a lot of layers of feathers versus very minimal fur or less layers of feathers. And then they can also have, different size and anatomical parts. So for example, bears could have smaller ears in colder regions so that they can preserve more heat versus having larger ears for animals that live in more warmer climates. So if you have an ectotherm, these animals could get, pretty hot. And when they do get hot, you have blood vessels in your skin that start to expand. So warm blood will start to flow towards the skin surface so that it could be cooled, and then it will then help cool the rest of your body. So again, endotherm animals, when they become too hot, they have blood vessels in their skin that start to expand. That allows the warmer blood in your body that needs to get cooled down to come near the surface of the skin. And then as when you normally get hot, you start to sweat. So as the sweat starts to evaporate from your skin, it starts to cool the blood in your body, which is a great thing to have. And ways that different animals can warm themselves is horses secrete sweat to cool down their body. Rabbits have large ears, which allow a lot of blood flow there so that they can cool their body down that way. Dogs, they pant. They have blood vessels in their mouth, so that's why they always have their mouth open when they're really hot. Birds, they have blood vessels in their lung sacs that help to give off the heat to cool their body down. And all of this is to maintain homeostasis, which is pretty much having your body at a happy place. It's content, everything is good and balanced. When we talk about ectotherms, these are animals that are like your fish, your amphibians, your reptiles, your invertebrates. And these animals cannot control their body temperatures internally. Now, the advantage of an ectotherm is that they can be active no matter what the temperature is in their environment. And in order to do this, they need lots of energy in order to maintain the different temperature changes. And so they have to eat a lot of food. So that's one thing that is unique about ectotherms. Now, we all have enzymes that are very active in our body. Remember, enzymes are catalysts in order for reactions and functions to occur very well. But enzymes are also very sensitive to temperature. So if the temperature is too high or too low, they're not going to work properly. And so ectothermic animals, they have to change the activity of what they are doing in order to maintain their body temperature when the temperature externally changes. So frogs near ponds, when it's very hot, they will go under rocks in order to stay nice and cool. Snakes, when it gets really cold, they will actually go into kind of like a slower pace, almost like an active phase, where they can't really function until they get back warmed up. And this is important because for medical treatments, a lot of people use snake venom. And in order for you to get the snake venom safely from a snake, they will put them in almost like a refrigerator where it will be very low temperatures. So they're not killing the snake, but they're making it very sleepy and sluggish so that they can safely retrieve the venom from them. So that's it for section 13A. I will see you guys in section 13B.